Wheel bearing. Today is a day to replace the wheel bearing. I didn't like that Chinese wheel bearing that I bought for $100 and almost $50 with tax. There's the old one. I kept it. And luckily I kept it. Never throw anything away because we've got our BFH. We've got the studs that we removed from the old mangled socket. And we have the probably made overseas, Korea, Taiwan, China, wheel bearing from the junkyard that was removed, but just lying there, attached, but barely. And I'm putting the studs in from the mangled wheel bearing, failed in Gainesville, Florida. And how you do it is real simple. You just pound the old ones out. You've got a big dimple on the end so you can't make a mess of the threads. You just take BFH and you pound in the new ones. Like that. I'm sure there's a better way to do it. Press would be the best way. By far. But I don't have one here at the warehouse. So you just pound on it until you hit your finger or get the wheel stud set all the way in. I think that's a bit better camera angle. Leal Tools sells what looks like a backwards, oops, wrong way, backwards wheel. And this socket is just deep enough. Put it up against the flange and you've got another 1/16 of an inch before it bottoms. Leal sells a tool for drawing these things in, but you beat up your impact gun and it just rattles and bangs away. Press is the best way. This is the second best way if it's off the vehicle. And on the vehicle, I guess you have no choice but to use their special, that's nice and crooked, nut. Looks like a backwards nut. But I've never used that backwards nut, but I've used a few washers, and the washers are actually break. Yep, breaks the washers. Like I said, the best way is off the vehicle, if you can. In a press, this is the second best system. Make sure it's all the way down, because when you tighten your wheel nut, you're eventually going to get some looseness. Sometimes you can't get to the top of it because the flange may be in the way. It's good for the driveway. I should be wearing goggles. I'm not. I'm looking for trouble. Everybody's a hero until a chunk flies off and hits you in the eye. And then you're a dummy. A chunk in your eye at the emergency ward with everybody else, that was dummies. And make sure they're all seated. Don't swing the hammer next to the ABS wiring plug, because you'd be sure and miss. And whack! Off goes the ABS sensor. Make sure they're all seated. That wasn't too bad of an ordeal. That one could go down a little bit more. Which one is this one? More whack. You can tell when it's seated because the noise changes. Instead of sliding through the hole, it makes more of a ring and clang. They're all in. Yep. I actually bent the head slightly. You can't see it in the camera, but the head is touching where I hammered on it and not on the other side. So we'll tighten them up and then we'll retorque them after we get it installed with the wheel on. Well, that's what I've been doing this beautiful, sunny, but cool afternoon. What we got here for temperature? 46 degrees. No Celsius on this thermometer. 46 degrees, so much for 70. Which is what, 19, 21 degrees. Alright, put a smear a bit of grease here. smear, smear. A little bit of grease. Quite the small backing plate they put on this big truck. This little baby backing plate. It's a pretty simple procedure. Take the wheel bearing and you slide the anti-lock brake through the hole, and the backing plate falls off over and over. That's about it. Pretty simple. And up the backing plate. Flange, tighten the wheel bearing bolt from the back. It's 474 foot-pounds. It's pretty tight. I was going to grease the wheel bearing. Just use junkyard one through that hole. But the wheel bearing grease that I have is molybdenum low speed. It's not high speed wheel bearing grease. It says do not mix with other soap-based greases. Do not mix. So there's enough grease on this bearing. I can always take it all apart again. Take out that speed sensor for the anti-lock brakes and put some grease down through there. So that's it, putting it back together. Nothing's ever simple. I'm using my made in China 12-point 15mm socket, which looks just like my 6-point made in USA socket, which I bought years ago. USA, no marking. And it's slipping on the bolt, even though I hammered it on, so that's not good. Stripping a bolt on something as important from this as this. Luckily, I have some extras that I took from the junkyard because you can never have too many nuts and bolts. And I can't tell if I'm looking at the right thing now, so how about that? Yep, put the socket on, I'm tightening it, it slipped off. Yep, not a good thing. Should have some impact sockets on this, but I don't think I have any handy. These are gotta be tight like heck. I'm gonna probably break this non-impact socket. This one actually hits the stud of the upper ball joint. Just has clearance for the swing bar. How many foot-pounds is that? TLH, tight like hell. I feel like pulling out my stomach muscles as I crank on the swing bar. This is a long swing bar. Crank that baby up. Whatever that was. I'm looking at a Suburban for sale in San Diego. 6.5 diesel, not what I was looking for, but there it was. And I'm texting the people and I talk to them, and the woman writes me, she says, my husband is subscribed to your YouTube channel. I said, how can that be? I'm CORVAIRWILD on YouTube. Guess that's how. So I have to pay extra because I'm rich and famous? Things are never as simple as they should be. I'm trying to tighten these bolts, and my 12-point socket made in China, Craftsman, is stripping. So luckily I have a 6-point USA. I tightened up 2 of the bolts, and this top one is still spinning a bit, but I think I got it tight enough. Yep, cheap Chinese tools. Definitely need to buy some overpriced snap-ons or some Cornwells or some Matco, yeah right. Jeezum crow. Like that wheel bearing, luckily I saved it. Put the studs in, tighten everything up, put it all back together. The temperature's dropping here, and I was texting somebody in San Diego with a 4-wheel drive 6.5 turbo diesel Suburban, and the woman texts me back. She says, my husband subscribed to your channel. I said, do I have to pay more now because I'm supposedly rich and famous? And she said, well, once you're famous like Jay Leno, we'll up the price. It'd be nice if he called me one day.